I'm going to go ahead and move on over into our brand new bill pay. So I'm going to start here in some slides. I'm going to take you through some of these basics because I want you to be familiar with some of these screens. So while inside of QuickBooks Online, we know that over in our expense center is where our bills exist. What you now have is a brand new area that's a hyperlink into that area that's going to be all about bill pay. So if you're somebody who has used Bill.com Lite in the past, because I was an earlier adopter of that, I was happy to be able to pay my bills and actually see inside of QuickBooks what the life cycle was of that bill. If you're somebody who has used Melio, same thing. You've got all of these brand new bill pay options that have been released to us throughout the last 5 years or so. But what we now have is it's a bill pay that has been released by QuickBooks. So you don't have to subscribe to another app. It is inside. And yes, Mary, I will talk about the cost because there are 3 different costs. It depends on which subscription level you are going to subscribe to. And when we're thinking about the cost, here it is right here. So bill pay basic is $0. What that means is you get free 5 ACH a month. For most of us, that's enough. I'm going to say somebody like myself, I'm going to be doing very few transactions that are going to be bill pay within my own firm. So I'm going to probably always stay in that $0 subscription. If you've got a client and they have around 40 or less, somewhere around that, then I'm going to say the $15 plan would probably be more appropriate for them. They're going to, not have any fee associated with the ACH, but with any of these subscription levels, a check is going to cost $1.50. It doesn't matter which subscription you have subscribed to. The check is a printing thing, it's a mailing thing, and so there is a cost that's associated with every single one of those checks. Bill Pay Elite, I'm going to say there is a great big jump from going from the Bill Pay Basic at $0 to the Bill Pay Elite. And Elite, what I want to really highlight here is if you are somebody who is working with a client that has multiple different team members, they need to have approvals. There's different sets of eyes at different dollar levels. That's where Elite is going to come into play. You've got user permissions and roles, plus you also have the workflow. So we're going to look at some of that as well. So you can see how does Bill Pay Elite work with the QuickBooks Online workflow, and then also with the roles and user permissions. Lisa, you're asking a really good question. Will your clients using Melio have to do anything to switch over? So my answer to you is what I've been told is taking place on the back end. If you are somebody who is using Melio, that is going to be disconnected, and then you're going to have the option to subscribe to QuickBooks Bill Pay. If you want to stay with Melio, my clients who are connected with Melio, I have not seen a disconnect, so they are still continuing to use Melio as normal. But I have been told at some point that connection in the background will be disconnected, and I'm not sure exactly the details about that, Lisa. Okay, so I'm going to keep on moving forward. Angie, you asked about Canada. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to whether or not this is live in Canada. And then Caleb, you asked about Bill Pay Elite with Simple Start. Great question. So I'm going to go ahead and answer that in a minute. I'm not going to start that answer just yet because I want to move over and I'll actually show you what it looks like. All right, so bill pay methods. Right now what we have is check and ACH. There are other payment methods coming, but right now this takes care of the majority of people, and I'm going to say predominantly most people are doing ACH. So creating a bill, I'm going to stop here and I'm actually going to go ahead and go live, so that way you should be able to see my QuickBooks screen. Hopefully everybody's got that. And where I'm going to go is I'm going to go inside of my expense center, and I'm going to look at unpaid bills that are sitting here. So anytime that you are coming over into your bill center, you can actually upload a bill, you can have bills for review, but here's where you would start if you had already entered a bill, and then you would be able to open that bill and say, let's schedule a payment. And then up this screen pops that tells you, how would you actually like to pay this bill? So I've got a bill that's for $5 and I'm going to choose my bank account. But here's the part that I was telling you, this account's not fully set up. The only thing that I did before today for this demo is I went in and I added a bank account. I went ahead and had that bank account tested so that way it was verified for today. But in QuickBooks, I don't actually have an account yet created. So if I wanted to create my bank account and I wanted to put any details here, I certainly could. And so what this means is my drafting account is going to be this account ending in these 4 digits. And then my bookkeeping, so the posting to the general ledger, is going to take place to this account that I just indicated. Really, this is it. So we're first deciding where is the money coming from. And then the second action is going to be, where do we want those dollars to be sent to? So you're going to see that I've got my pay to, I could put an email address in here. I could put all of the different information for this particular bill for this vendor, and I could enter all of those details. If I wanted to have a paper check, same thing. I could put in all of the details for this transaction, and you can see when will the dollars be withdrawn, what is the estimated delivery date, and I can even see what my processing fee is going to be. So the processing fee for checks is always going to be the same. But if I come over here and I look at my ACH, here's what I do want to highlight. Even though I'm in a basic account and I get 5 free, this screen is a little misleading. It doesn't know that I'm under my 5, so it goes ahead and tells me, wait, you've got a processing fee. As soon as you go ahead and process this one ACH, that processing fee is actually removed because I'm under the 5. So I could put in all of my details here. I'm going to go ahead and back up for a second because I'm going to say there's multiple different ways in order to get your bills inside of QuickBooks. So here's where some of the different subscriptions come into play. If I come over into my for review, one of the things I can see is that a bill has already been uploaded for me. So I could come over here and it could have been a different team member who imported that bill, or it could be somebody like myself who I received something from email and I want to upload that directly from my computer. I could come over here and grab that invoice, and I can see that it's going to be processed. It's right here. It's thinking about that bill. But in the meantime, I've got another bill that is ready for review. So I can do my normal steps of going through and looking at the review. Here's where, if you were in Elite, and it doesn't matter, so to answer your question, Caleb, it doesn't matter which subscription level that you're in. What you're going to be able to do is, if you have Bill Pay Elite, you could have roles and permissions. So it could be a particular team member that is assigned to be able to upload those bills and then do exactly what we're doing in this screen, which is the review. And then it could be another team member that this is passed to for when it comes to approving that bill. And then even a third or a fourth team member, depending on where you put the permissions at payment levels. So it could be, you think if there's a bill that's over $1,000, then it needs to go to a different team member for routing for the payment. So ultimately, you can have quite a few different team members and different roles if you are using Bill Pay Elite. It is independent of your subscription level. So that answers your question, Caleb. It doesn't matter which subscription you have. If you are using Elite Bill Pay, you are going to have the options to have workflows and user permissions. So I could come over here and I could add in a new payee. And this is another thing that I want to say is part of Bill Pay. So say that I wanted to pick one of these vendors that is part of the business network. I could actually send off this request to the business network. And if there were payment details that were already provided, then it's going to be a faster connection in order to be able to pay them by ACH. A lot of you are already familiar with this type of practice in bill pay. It's now that QuickBooks has that option as well. So if you want to connect with somebody who is in the business network, then you would be able to send this over to them. They'd be able to approve that connection, and you would automatically see their address. You would see contact information. You'd be even able to know some information for payments. So lots of goodies that are there. And then that bill would then be ready for making payment. I'm going to go ahead and add this new vendor. And I'm going to go ahead and save him. He is not in the business network at this time. I could make it billable to a customer if I wanted to. And then I can always put in here, what is it that is the account. I can come over to expenses. Let's just put this under advertising, and let's just call it and we can go ahead and save and close. So that bill has now moved over from our for review to our unpaid status. So we could go ahead and do the same thing as before. We could start the process of paying this bill. We could move over into the schedule of payments. We could see our bank account here. For this particular vendor, we would need to have all of the ACH and the routing information in order for that to go through. But let's go ahead and just put in here a bogus address, and let's gonna say and then we could even put in here, thank you. Next, oh, we can email this vendor so that way they know for sure what is going to be the expected date of the payment. So off that would be sent. We'd be able to see where is the dollars going to be going to, what's our processing fee, and then we can actually put any more notes that we wanted to. This is particular vendor, and then we can schedule this payment. So 3 steps: who are we delivering it to, and what bank account, and then we're able to see that that payment is now scheduled. So we've got our bill that's now in the paid status. Where we've got this new hyperlink in order to be able to view all of these bill payments is not only here, but if we wanted to see more details about bill payments that have been paid with the brand new QuickBooks Bill Pay, then I would be able to go over here and say, show me all of these. If I had a bunch of bill payments, I could actually come over here and I could start to filter them. You know, what vendor am I looking for? What dates am I looking for? What was the dollar amount? So there's lots of ways to be able to search all of these different bill payments. The other thing that you can see here too is I've got my bill pay ID. I know my bill number, and then I can also see what is the schedule for that bill payment. When I come back over into looking at all of my bills and my bill payments, one of the things that I want to call out is if you are coming over here to this pay bills section that we have been really accustomed to and familiar, you are not going to see at this time where you can go in and you can save and schedule bills. I just want to call that out. I think that this is something that's coming to us, but for right now, whenever it comes to bill payment, you are going to need to be over in our expenses center inside of that bills tab. And then if you want to manage any of these bills, you can move over and you can see all of the various bills that have been scheduled, and you can even take action. Before I talk about the action you can take, I'm going to go ahead and look at some of the questions that we've got, because there's 9 of them. So do attachments get mailed along? I have not seen attachments, Caleb. I think that that's why there's a really robust area for notes. So that would be my answer there. Do you have to select the payment account in QuickBooks Online on each transaction? Yes. So it's kind of like anytime that we're working inside of QuickBooks, it gets sticky. So it will be familiar with the bank account selected. It was just, I haven't set that account up fully. So that was my experience today. Karen, hello. Let's see. So do we have to get the details from the vendor before sending the payment if we want ACH? Yes. So you do want to have the ACH details in order to be able to enter those into QuickBooks. I don't know if there's something coming kind of like with when we want our clients to pay our invoices, if there's going to be like a portal where they can enter in those details, but I think that's really good feedback. Is there any suggestion of duties on releasing payments? Well, Joy, I think this is a question that my big answer is yes. Always have some protocol in place. And that's why there's a workflow. And I'm going to show you that workflow here in a second, what it looks like for being able to manage bills. But I think the best practice is always to have two people in play. You know, more if you've got a larger department that is in part of the AP process, but you know, if you're a firm and you're entering in the bills and then you want somebody at the actual company, your client company, to pay those bills, that would be a scenario where there's two people that are interacting with bill pay. If you're working with a client that they're uploading their own bills, but they want to have somebody else come over and pay the bills, that would be a two-person workflow. And I would encourage that because it's really best practices to have two different people in charge of entering the bills. So that way you don't have what many of us have unfortunately seen is that you have sometimes people who are creating bogus bills and then paying those. And it looks like it's legit, but it's not. So that's why I think it's the best practice to have two people in play. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move over to look at some of these other details, and I'm going to come back to these questions if I can, but there's a lot of questions here, so I'm going to keep on moving. But Joy, you just asked a question, and it's all about can you pay more than one bill at a time? And my answer to you is not at this time. That is something that I believe is on the roadmap. International payments, I believe, is also something that's on the roadmap. Okay, so what if I wanted to cancel this payment? You know, I'm here testing with you today. I don't really actually want to send this money. So what I can do is I can say on this scheduled, so this is really my confirmation, I could come over here and say, I just want to cancel it. Boom, it's done. So I've got my cancellation notification, and that is now going to be right back into my unpaid. So there it pops back up. All right, so you can see right now that the subscription level that I am in is actually essentials. So if you're curious what I believe that is the truth, let me make sure. You know, look at me, I went to the wrong place. So subscription and billing. And so I'm in plus. So it really doesn't matter what the subscription level is. This is a separate subscription. And if I wanted to upgrade, so I could show you the elite plan, I can go ahead and pick it. I can say change my plan. And now I'm going to have all of the functionality of Bill Pay Elite. And this is where we now have workflows. So I didn't have this before, but now you can see workflows has been added. And if you're somebody who is familiar with workflows, because you are a QuickBooks Online Advanced user, this is going to feel very familiar to you. So if you need to have workflow for bill pay, you do not need to have QuickBooks Online Advanced in order to be able to have the users and the permissions associated with bill pay. So I could actually come over here, and in my workflows, now I could say, I want a multi-conditional workflow. I could come in here and I could start to edit it. I could say, a bill amount between the dollars of, this is a default. So I just set this up and these are here. What if I wanted this to be, you know, whatever set number? I certainly could do that. So let's just say, let's make it $10,000. Now I've saved that condition. So I want to request that an approver come over here and they're going to get a notification. So automatically there's going to be a email that's going to be sent off. If you were using notifications and tasks, then you could actually have a notification sent there too. So what happens whenever there is a bill that's between this dollar amount that I just indicated is now $10,001 and $50,000. Now I want there to be an approval for in this range sent over to, if I had another person, I would pull them in right here. I could say, here's that other person that I want to be able to approve bills that are in between this 10,000 and 50,000. And then if I wanted to say, but any bills that are over that 151,000 and between 100,000, then I want that to go to another person. Again, it's just me. And then we could actually say, what do we want them to be able to do? We want them to be able to approve. So here you go. So we could save and enable, and now we've got a workflow, and that would be part of my workflow. I could slide it on, I could slide it off right here. But I do want to just call this out that I am inside of Plus, which does not have workflows, but because I subscribed to the elite version, I just got workflows added. Same thing with users. So typically I would have my normal user types, but because I just said that I'm going to be in bill pay, I now have 3 new types of users. I would not have had that in normal Plus subscription. So I can see here's my bill approval. What all do they have access to? What are they able to see? I could send an invitation over to that person. I also have a bill clerk. So the bill clerk is going to be somebody who uploads the bill like I did earlier. It depends on how you want them to be able to upload a bill. I will add this in that if you are in QuickBooks Online Advanced, another option for importing a bill is through Google. So that's another option. And then there is a bill payer. So you can see everything that these bill payers would have access to. I really like this view because so you can see that they could view, create, edit, delete. And then, of course, there is always going to be an admin. So an admin inside of the bill user roles is a requirement. And somebody like myself, because I'm setting this up, I automatically defaulted to the admin because I'm the only user inside of this particular QuickBooks file. So a lot there that I think is super, super cool. I'm going to come over here and look at some of the questions. How many of those 104 characters? So I think that the characters, Christina, you were asking a question. I think that that's going to be part of what's emailed over to your client. That's why the email notification was required.